Hey everyone, welcome to TeamMSRV, where we show you life is not over just because you have MS, for you or your caretaker.
And that's why we decided to sell everything and enjoy life to the fullest.
So follow us on our adventures for tips and tricks on how to cope with this disease on a daily basis.
And maybe we could help each other. So today's video, we're gonna talk about baseline symptoms. And Frankie is gonna draw it out on a piece of paper and explain to you guys what that means.
That's right, and it's good to understand your baseline symptoms because I know sometimes during the day things happen with MS and it feels like it's totally random, but once you understand where your baseline symptoms are, it'll all make sense and you'll understand and feel more normal about it. Not to mention it also helps you plan your day and plan adventures.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Once you understand where you are on the scale, you can go from there and work from that. At least you have a starting point.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Today we're going to talk about baseline symptoms. Sometimes you hear people talk about flare-ups or relapse or something along those lines. In some cases, this may be actually true. But in most cases, in our experience, it's their baseline symptoms rearing their ugly head. So today's video, I want to help you understand what your baseline symptoms are, how to assess what your personal baseline symptoms are, and then how you can move forward with your daily life, understanding what this means. So let's jump right into it. Okay, I like to make this little chart. It helps me visualize what happened when MS actually attacked Tammy. So we're going to go through a quick timeline here. We're going to say this is when she was born. We're going to say this is now, because we all know everyone lives forever, right? So we're going to make a timeline chart. It'll be an energy chart, right? So Tammy, she got MS in her early or late 30s. I believe she was 38, but she may have been 39. I'm sure I'll pay for not knowing that. So we'll call that around here for Tammy. So Tammy lives her life, her energy levels, and her ability to perform, you know, at a normal level. We'll say this is her tank of energy here. When you're born, obviously you're very tiny, so you have a little energy. And as you grow, you know, you have spurts of good and bad, and you know, you go through puberty, whatever it may be. MS typically is diagnosed between 20 and 40 years old. So we'll say when you get to young adults, some people MS hits them here, right? Some people MS hits them in their advanced years, maybe in their 60s. But typically, it's between 20 and 40 where diagnosis is happening. So we'll say Tammy was living her life, you know, she graduated high school, so you know, you have great energy, then you probably have crashes from partying, you know how it is, growing up. Had boyfriends and loves, we'll call them, and then, you know, then she met me, which was a huge spike in energy and probably a huge drop at the same time. But we lived our life, and she was performing, working every day, right? And when MS hit her, her energy spiked down, really, and then it spiked up, and then it spiked down, and then it kind of spiked up, and then through, like, you know, once she was properly diagnosed, there was this period after this, you know, you get steroids, typically when you're first diagnosed, to slow it down, and then you go through your treatment plan, you know, and it's kind of an up and down until they figure out what works right for you. The important part here that we want to focus on is this section right here. Now this section may be here for you if you were diagnosed at, say, 20 years old. In rare cases, it's even younger, but sometimes you may be older. But for Tammy, I'm going to say 38 when that hit her. So I'm going to kind of zoom in on this chart here. I'm going to get this one out. Okay, so now to zoom into this chart, you know, days, every day going to work, whatever, MS hits. and then there's like this big spike, and then it like kind of levels out with the steroids, and then you go through your treatment plan, and then you find your new norm, right? So this part here, it's hard to talk about, even for me. This happened to my wife. So for me, this is personal. But we're gonna, I want to get into this because not only is it therapy for me, but I believe that this is going to help a lot of people out there understand what's happening to them on a daily basis. So bear with me here. This here we're going to call pre-MS period, where everything was normal. You were living your life, setting goals, failing and achieving and living, right? This here we're going to call MS active period. This we'll call diagnosis. These are basically steps that you have to go through until you find your new norm. This here we'll call the treatment plan. Figuring out what meds work best for you and what makes you feel the most normal and makes you act and perform at your best ability. And then this we'll call either now or post, or yeah, we'll just call that now. And this goes on for infinity, as we all know. Okay, so understanding this phase here is really the key. When MS was active, this is before you were diagnosed. This is maybe you were getting small symptoms, maybe you had a little numbness or pain in your left feet, or everyone has their own experience with this. But I'm speaking from my experience with Tammy. So for her, she had a little numbness, and then it started going up her leg, and then it got into her lower back, and that's where, we have a video about how she was diagnosed. But basically, MS was running rampant through her spine. It reached her brain. There was 25 plus lesions in her brain when we actually got to the diagnosis stage. So this was running wild, and as you know, we'll have a video about how MS actually attacks you. So check out that video. If it's not posted yet, it's coming very soon. But during this period here, MS was attacking, right? And then once you got diagnosed, they figured out you had something going on where you had lesions, and they started recognizing signs that were leading to MS. They give you a big boost of, well, for Tammy, I'll say, they gave her intravenous steroids, and she had to go, I think it was every day for 5 days straight. So that's why I put this little stable period here, because when she was doing that for a while, she was basically normal. I felt like she was running around this area more than she was here, but she still had some things that were bothering her that weren't right. Then we started with different medications, different combinations of medications. There's probably thousands and thousands of combinations. For hers, it took a little while. It took about, I want to say, 6 months of trying different things until she finally stabilized, and she has a solid treatment plan now, and this is how she functions on a daily basis. I should give this a little more up and down because that's the reality of it. Every day, you have energy and you lose energy. Okay. So now, looking at this, the period from here to here is, it's hard to say this, but this is damage that happened already. Right? So while MS is doing its thing in your brain, and it finds some cells that it doesn't like and it starts attacking them, those are cells or neurons that your brain had made connections with previously for maybe communication with your left leg, or maybe speech, or maybe mobility in general, right? Maybe numbness. But it's breaking connections that you've had, so that your brain's used to using this pattern for moving your left toe, you know, your pinky toe on your left foot, and now that pattern is broken somewhere, so it doesn't work the same as it used to. Now you can create new pathways in your neurons by doing physical therapy and training and you know, working yourself every day. You can make new pathways and create new connections, which is incredible. But the damage that happened is where the problem is. And where most people struggle is that because ego gets in the way. Of course, ego. It's very personal. It's very mental and physical to everybody, to the patient and the people around them. So me, I'm observant. I watch everything that's happening to her because, you know, I want to be able to help the best I can. So here is where she thinks she can do, you know, basically from this area. But the reality is, and I hate saying this is the new way of doing. And I feel like that's the frustrating part, because when Tammy tackles something that she's done a million times in the past, as simple as laundry maybe, she thinks that she could just go in there and get 3 or 4 loads simultaneously going, folding, and, you know, doing it all at once, when in actuality it burns her out really fast now. So she thinks she can do this, so living here but operating here, that triggers all kinds of stress and triggers for her baseline symptoms to rear. And I know I didn't get to that yet, so that's where we're headed next. So once you understand that this section happened already, if you have multiple sclerosis, the amount of time it took to get from here to here will determine how tall this is. Okay, so I have another chart to make here, and this one we're going to call, this will be easy, this will be a daily energy chart. Right, we wake up at 7 a.m., go to bed about 10 p.m. That puts noon probably around here somewhere, so I'll just put 12 p.m. Okay, so Tammy, we're gonna go with the daily energy. So this is an empty tank and this is a full tank, just like we did on the other chart. When she wakes up in the morning, if she had a good night's rest, she wakes up with a whole bunch of energy, and she starts doing her morning thing. She likes to clean a little bit in the morning. She does her best thinking stuff in the morning, you know, because that's when she has the most energy. She makes breakfast, and around 11:30 or so, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, you know, depending on the day, because that's how MS operates, she needs a nap. So she takes her nap, and normally she'll energize right back up, and she'll get up around 12:30, 1 o'clock, you know, an hour and a half. I'm not saying everyone needs a nap, but that's what works for her. And then when she does this, the second part of the day is a much more gradual drop for her. Until the end of the night, she gets kind of the steep drop where she's ready for bed with no energy again. Right? So things that can deplete your energy, though, can be stress, or there's other types of triggers. So let's talk about that really quick. What are some triggers that cause stress for you? Fatigue itself brings your stress levels up or drains your energy down, just being tired alone. Heat is a major contributor to draining your energy from you. Direct sunlight, in a lot of cases, it just saps your energy, and to the point where you need a nap maybe twice a day. Sometimes that's how it is for Tammy. Physical labor. And that one's obvious, right? You're working physically. Say you're digging a hole. There's gonna, that drains healthy people. So, and I'm not insinuating that someone's not healthy. I'm just saying that physically fit people are tired at the end of the day from physical labor. Problem solving. Maybe your job, maybe you have issues at home, maybe you just figure out, that's just the way your brain works. You like to solve problems all day. That's me. I see an issue and I try to fix it. I can't help it. So, but problem solving or trying to make decisions, say you're moving and you're trying to figure, you can get overwhelmed in the decision-making process, and that triggers your stress. Children. Spouse. For sure. I'm not saying that these are triggers, but I know that I have triggered stress in Tammy. I know that I could be a pain in the butt sometimes. We don't have children, but we've been around plenty of children in our time, in our days, and we know that they can be stressful. It's not that they're bad, it's just part of growing up. Other things that may be triggers are infections, whether it's a UTI or a common cold, that that'll just start you off at much lower energy in the beginning of the day. If you worry a lot, that is a trigger, because it's you're creating this stress that circles, because everyone knows when you're worried about something, it circulates in your mind and it keeps cycling and cycling, and it sends you over the edge sometimes. So these are things to consider during your day. And this is probably 10% of stress or triggers that can affect somebody. These are just the ones I know off the top of my head for this video. So, coming back to this daily energy chart though, let's make a second one, same chart, but this one is Tammy waking up at 7 a.m. full energy, but circumstances have it where she can't get her nap in, right? She operates over here all day. And when this happens, her stress levels are at almost a maximum by 2 p.m. where she may be feeling numbness, she feels pain, she may have some speech problems, she's very forgetful for most of the day here. No energy. So I'm showing you this chart because understanding how your energy works, and your chart will be unique. It won't look like this. Your chart will be, it may be similar, it may be very different. You may find you crash right away, you nap and you last all day, no problem. Some people may make full energy all day and crash. Depends on how much damage happened and how it damaged each individual. So we have to keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on to the baseline symptom. Before we get to that chart, one more real quick one here. This one is a little bit backwards, but we're going to call this the stress chart. That was funny. And again, we're going to give it the 7 a.m., the noon, and the 10 p.m. And what happens here is we're going to call this a 10 and we're going to call this a 1. And when Tammy wakes up in the morning, her stress level is low. Sometimes she wakes up with pain. I think she wakes up with numbness every day, but sometimes it's more painful than other days. So we'll say she starts off at a 1.5, just to be fair to her. And as these stress and triggers happen to her, her stress level climbs. It's basically the opposite of the other charts we were looking at. And then she naps and her stress level goes down depending on the quality of sleep. And again, she can handle her stress better after her nap until the end of the day where she sleeps for the night. So the more stress you deal with during the day, or the more triggers that create stress for you, the higher or quicker this chart will come up for you. So this makes sense on this next chart here. So let's create a chart where we have a stress chart here. These are, we're going to say, baseline. And you can create this chart to help your loved ones understand. Maybe your doctor can help you understand, but I think this is more a personal thing of you observing yourself and maybe a loved one observing you. So we'll call this stress. Down here is symptoms. And we're going to say, I know Tammy experiences these things. Fatigue, speech, headache, numbness, forgetfulness, and mobility. Can we see that? Let's make sure we can see all this. So with Tammy, on a level of 1 to 10 of stress, different symptoms show up at different levels of stress or tiredness, right? Or fatigue, I should say. So for Tammy, this will be a representative of her baseline situation. Her fatigue, that normally starts pretty quickly, so I'll call that like a 2. Her speech, it's got to be a pretty stressful situation, or she's got to be pretty tired, so we'll call that a 9. Headaches, though, I'd say that's a 4. Numbness, that's like a 3. 3.5. Forgetfulness, that's often now. Mobility, I'd give that like a 7. So now let's fill this in and it'll make a little more sense. I don't know why I just went over that line. Because I'm a ding dong. That's why. Okay, so this area, no one wants to be in this area. Of course, you can't control whether you are in there or not all the time. This area is a good area for you to be in. So, how this works is, simultaneously, Tammy wakes up in the morning. For lack of a instrument that's wide enough to cover the whole sheet, I'll use the pen. She wakes up in the morning, and as she gets going, her stress level rises, right? So at this point, she's already becoming a little forgetful, and her fatigue is starting to show. She's starting to feel tired. So she rests, she brings this back down into the happy place. Now say her rest gets interrupted and she doesn't actually come down here. She stays in the same place, and then she gets a stressful phone call that brings her stress level up to a 5. Now she's starting to get a headache. Her legs really numb. She's becoming more forgetful, and she's even more tired. Because the further into this you are, the worse this symptom is. So her headache may be mild here, but her numbness is starting to be aggravating. There's days where she skips her nap because we're not home for whatever reason, and then we get home at a late time and she feels like she needs to make dinner, or she just pushes through it. It puts her up to here, and half the day, around 2 p.m., how I showed you on that energy chart previously, all her symptoms are showing. Even her speech is starting to become a problem, but she has a pounding headache at this point. Her numbness is really bad. She's really forgetful, and at this point, she kind of stops caring about what people are talking about because she's in such misery from all these other symptoms. Her mobility starts becoming affected. Her fatigue is like she's dragging feet literally because she's so tired. And then if it was a very stressful day, the next day she might not get enough rest to come all the way down. She might wake up at 7 a.m. and be there still. So that's how that works. So realizing where your stress is, and stress may be just being tired, stress may be from work, stress may be all those indicators that I showed you previously. Where that lands on this chart is where your baseline symptoms show. So your chart will be unique as well, because you may not feel fatigue until after you started feeling numbness. Everyone's chart here is very unique because the disease attacks in a way that's unique to each person. It just finds its own pathway. So I'm hoping that this makes a lot more sense for you guys. And when you hear someone say flare up or relapse, but the doctor says there's no new damage, that's because that's the baseline symptoms rearing their head. You go to the beach and in the morning and you're not protected, you're going to be here by 11 a.m. You're going to be having a hard time moving around. And if you stay till 2 or 3, you're going to be maxed out. And maxed out means it may take you 3 days to recover, because that sometimes is the case. I know it's a very difficult topic to talk about. No one wants to know or hear that they've experienced the loss, of course. There's a lot of mental stress that comes with that. But understanding your new way of doing and knowing how this baseline chart applies to your daily life, that will help you have successful adventures where you're not caught in a situation where you're uncomfortable or you need medical attention because you weren't thinking about your mobility being a trigger, taking a hike through the desert, right? So I know it's hard. I had to record this video twice because it's emotional for me. My wife has experienced loss, and no one showed us this. This kind of came to me one day, just trying to understand, when one day she had a migraine headache that was so bad it put her in the ER, and I didn't understand how a migraine can do that. And now that after talking with the doctor again and again, and she explained the baseline, I come up with this graphical way of understanding it. And I hope it helps you guys. It helps me.
Thanks everyone for watching. Use our playlist to watch our video in order.
And the best way to support us is to like this video and subscribe to our channel and get notifications. Don't forget, 25% of any money ever earned on this channel will be donated to an MS cause of your choosing.
As a team, we got this.